We recently went camping and had a brush with disaster on the edge of a mountain.
Let's talk about that.
I'm Greg from Swanwick, Derbyshire. Good mythical morning.
Good mythical morning!
This episode is brought to you by LensRentals.com. That's where you can rent high-end camera equipment and lenses. We rented our camera for the all-night-long shoot that we did. You too can rent equipment from there. Yes. Enter the coupon code GMM05 to get 5% off in the next 2 weeks. Act now!
Going back a couple of months, me and Link here, the Linkster. My dad used to call you the Linkster. Remember that?
Yeah.
I don't call you that.
He would spank you and then he'd call me the Linkster.
I'm not going to start calling you that.
Hey, Linkster, I spanked your friend the other night.
We recently...
He would never say that.
We decided to plan a camping trip. My good friend Mike was coming in from...
He's my friend too.
Yeah, well, he was my friend first, but now he's both of our friends. That's kind of how it works.
He likes me better.
Yeah, well, maybe a little bit. He was coming in from North Carolina, and he had to do some work in Bakersfield. And last time he came into town, he went camping alone, solo camping up in Sequoia National Forest. But he said, hey, this time, you know what, let's plan a little bit ahead of time, and let's go camping together.
He was bringing back pictures of, like, world's largest trees and whatnot. And we're like, wow, maybe we should take a respite and go up there. So yeah, we planned it out. The details were laid out. We knew he was coming into town. We were going to do it. Take 2 days.
Yeah, so we had it planned for a while. Coincidentally or simultaneously, concurrently, I came to the realization that I needed a car. Because the way it's been working over the past 18 months since we have been here in California is that Link's family, you guys have a van. My family, we have the Pilot. It's not a plane. It's an actual car. Mm-hmm. And each family has a car. And then
I would drive a Ford Fusion, which was our corporate car. And I would just use it basically for commutes. And
that's how you get here. But so I don't have a car. Our family has one car. But there are many times where I find myself, my wife needs a car, it's on a weekend, and I just don't have a car.
It's frustrating.
And so I'm like, well, I got to find something, but it just needs to be something cheap that'll just go point A, point B, Craigslist deal kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it should also be another company car.
Rhett didn't tell me any of this until he found the car that he wanted to buy. So it was, you would have this like pitch for me. You're like, listen, I've decided I need a car, blah, blah, everything he just told you, he told me. It's been frustrating. I just want to get something cheap. And I was like, well, you want to do this like the corporate way? Like we could make it a business kind of expense type of situation, whatever. He's like, yes, that's a good idea. I've already been on Craigslist and I've found it. Here it is.
It was a 1992 brown Ford Bronco.
Now, I wasn't entirely open to the idea of getting another vehicle. But once I saw that picture, I was like, yes, this is awesome. I don't care what condition it's in. It's 2 different colors of dookie brown.
Long story short,
we bought it.
We bought this car. And as you can imagine, it is 20 years old. It is a Bronco.
And I think knowing that we were going camping kind of informed us wanting to get it. Because when I saw it, it was like, we're taking this camping.
Of course.
We're going to drive this to Sequoia.
Well, that was part of my
pitch.
That was part of my pitch. I was like, true. Hey, we could take this camping. Think about that. Instead of a Ford Fusion. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
the guys into sedan camping, that's
not cool. That's not cool.
So anyway, we buy this thing. Now, as you can imagine, it has some problems. That's why we got it so cheaply. But it has a transmission issue so that it like shifts really hard. The brakes are kind of questionable in some ways. It doesn't always start. It has like a fuel pump issue. So like I'd say 10 to 20% of the time it won't start and you have to wait and like let the fuel pump kind of realize that it should be working. But I took it to a mechanic to have him sort of look at it to be like, hey, you know what? We're going to take this up to the top of a mountain, like 8,000 feet, like 4 hours away from here. And he's like, do you really have to do this? And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
He says, well, I can't guarantee anything. You could break down. But he's like, it's your prerogative. So we're like, okay, we're going to take the Bronco camping.
It wasn't a prerogative, it was a Bronco. But that would be a cool name for a
Ford
car.
Prerogative. So anyway, we go up there to the Sequoia National Forest, and the whole time I'm nervous. I'm driving this thing, and every time I smell something, I'm like, is that coming from our car? Every time I hear something, is that coming from the Bronco? But the car continues, that's an insult. The truck continues to do its job. And little by little, when we get to the bottom of that mountain, we start going up to the top, Sequoia National Park. We're getting up there. It's not overheating. I mean, the Bronco is doing what it was made to do 20 years ago, and that is to get to the top of a mountain.
And then the next morning we get up, we look at the largest tree in the world, the General Sherman. We take some photos of us. I wore a bandana.
It was awesome.
And then we decide, all right, let's go down the mountain. Let's drive the 2 hours down the mountain and then go to the valley and then drive. What we wanted it to be like, 3 hours up the other side and camp somewhere else the next night, right?
Well, anyway, as you go down the mountain, which I was really worried about the brakes and trying to go in a lower gear and all this stuff, you get to this place where they're doing construction and there's one lane that they've got open and they stop traffic on both sides for about 20 to 30 minutes while they let the traffic go through the other side. So when you get to the top of this thing, you get to this line of cars and you stop and you know you're going to be there for half an hour, so you cut your car off. So we get down to this line of cars and we're like 20 cars back and I put it in park, put the emergency brake on, cut the car off, and then we're just like chilling. We're like, this is so awesome. And we're bragging about the Bronco. We're like, this car is awesome. It's doing exactly what it was made to do. This thing is like right off the factory line, and we got it so cheap, and we look so cool, and everybody's looking at us like...
Right off the factory line, maybe not, but...
That's how I'm thinking in my mind. These guys are great. Look at them. They must go camping every weekend. Look, they're in a Bronco. It's brown.
We're sitting there for a long time. The sun's beating down on me, so I get out of the car. I take my shoes and socks off, and I go... There's a rock there on the edge of the cliff, and I stand on the rock to do what the dude at Topanga, at Eagle Rock, told me to do, to feel the electricity through my feet. I've started doing this.
Okay, good.
I'm not really working yet. So I'm barefooted, I'm standing on the rock, I'm looking out, and then all of a sudden, finally, I see that the cars are moving.
Yeah.
So I get back, I start walking back down, and then I hear, Link! It's like some panic. Like you weren't speaking English. You were running, you were like opening the door and the cars were backing up behind you, but cars in front were going, people were going around. I open the passenger side, I get in the seat. You're in the driver's seat in front of the wheel. Our friend Mike, who was sitting in the back seat, is now leaning forward over you. He wasn't in the front seat at this point, was he?
No, I think he got into the front.
Yeah, you ejected the car. He gets up into the front seat. By the time I open the door and look, I see Mike leaned over the steering wheel with his hand on the ignition, and he's going...
He's forcing it.
And I open the door, and I'm like, whoa, stop! I didn't know what was happening. And like, I couldn't... he was like a rabid dog attacking the steering column.
Well...
I didn't know what had happened. No one explained anything to me. And then I was like, whoa, what are you doing? And he pulls back, and I look down, and the ignition's like this, and the key, which is supposed to be like this, is like this. The key is bent.
Now, let me tell you what happened.
Like, what have you done? I step away for 5 minutes.
So the car started going, and I tried to turn it, and it's locked up. And so then I kind of, this happens with old cars. Sometimes the ignition gets locked, so I kind of start turning. I'm like, dude, it's locked. And I try to get the wheel unlocked to try to shift it in the gear. It won't go. And then Mike comes in and does. Now listen, I don't know who bent the key. We both tried to turn it pretty hard. All we knew was we couldn't get the key out of the ignition. We had bent it, and we were stuck on this mountain. I was out now directing traffic because we got these people coming around this mountain pass. I'm directing traffic around, and I'm beginning to have this sinking feeling like we are going to be stuck on this mountain. We are a few hours away from anyone who can help us. It's a Sunday afternoon, and we're going to be stuck on this mountain. We don't have cell service.
Saving grace is the construction guy comes over and says, if you go over there, you can get cell service. So we turn our phones on, and you were able to get cell service. So you used to call AAA. You start calling people.
I didn't call AAA. I called several locksmiths because Mike said, we need to call a locksmith because he could figure out something with the key. Don't call AAA because that means we're going to get towed and our camping trip is over.
Right.
I called 5 locksmiths. I get the answer machine for all of them. They're not working. They're like, I'm going to unlock anything on a Sunday.
And I can get on the internet. So at the same time, I'm searching 92 Ford Bronco, looks awesome, 2 different colors, brown, guys in it look cool, won't start on side of mountain, key won't turn.
You find several things that we tried, but nothing works.
Nothing's really coming up. Maybe
An hour passes.
Too many words.
We've done several cycles of cars. I've been directing people around, just defeated. It's hot. I'm out there getting sunburned. Then
we're gonna have to camp right there. We're thinking.
I'm like, listen, I'm calling AAA. Mike's like, hold on, let me call my friend, my mechanic friend, Craig, back in Fuquay. I'm like, well, why didn't you come up with this idea before? So he gets Craig on the phone, and Mike talked to Craig, and I'm just going to imagine what the conversation went like because I could hear it from Mike's side. He was like, "Hey, we got this situation. We this Bronco. We can't start it." And then Mike starts going, "Uh huh. Hit it with a hammer. Hit the key with a hammer." So Craig was saying, "Listen, all you got to do, very simple. Just take a hammer." And hit the key with a hammer. Just tap on the key with a hammer. Run around the ignition. Just tap a little bit, tap on the end, and it'll start right up. This is kind of like 11th hour, like hopeless advice. You're like, what? With a hammer?
What?
But we're like, we got a hammer. We have 2 hammers for putting the tent stakes in.
Yeah.
So Mike takes a hammer, taps it all around.
He's like Michelangelo.
right on the key.
And we're just like total silence, like waiting.
And then he's like, all right. Totally free. But now it won't start.
Like, you gotta be kidding me.
And then I was like, no, hold on. No. This is the fuel pump issue. Stop. Turn it back. Turn it to on. Wait 3 seconds. Now do it.
His eyes were like this big. We were like looking at each other.
He was like, the Bronco starts up. We did a victory dance.
Mike gets out of the front seat. You're running around to get in the front seat. I'm running around back. There's like girls who've been sitting behind us in this other car watching the whole time. Mike and I embrace.
I just saw you guys hugging on the side of the mountain.
We're like embracing each other in the back of behind the Bronco. We did it. And then we look and these girls are like, and then we get in the truck, we drive off, we drive down the mountain 2 hours, go into the valley, need to stop and get something to drink. We're like, hold on, don't stop the truck. We've got to drive 3 hours up the other mountainside so that we can camp where we want to camp. There was maybe we shouldn't do that. We're going to do that. So then for the next, we didn't stop. We didn't stop.
I didn't turn the car off the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And then once we parked at the campsite, I didn't take the key out of the ignition. Everywhere we parked for the rest of the weekend, we kept the key in the ignition and just hoped no one would steal all our stuff. Anyway, the moral of the story is...
And the key is still in the ignition now, right?
The moral of the story is you should get a 20-year-old vehicle and you should take it to the top of a mountain and see what happens. Live a little bit.
Yeah. And if it's 2 different colors of brown, that's better.
More interpretive dancing. Is it my turn to interpret a dance, or is it your turn to interpret a dance?
I think it's my turn.
Okay. Just when they thought it was okay, just when they thought they were going to make it down the hill in the dookie brown Bronco, fate struck a chord. Oh, chord! The key was lodged in the ignition like a fat badger stuck in his burrowing hole. Until they tapped the badger on the knee with a hammer. And he began to loosen up. He was no longer tense. And he said to himself, you know what? I think I'm going to turn here. And we'll go down the mountain. In a flurry of male embraces.